Hi, I'm Talcza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic
Crime. So close.
Hello.
Hi mate, how's it going?
Just great. Sunday morning for me.
Yeah, it's not that early, is it? Isn't it like...
No, it's like 11. 7
Yeah,
for you,
that's good.
right? Yeah.
Like you always know that, and I'm like, oh god, Rachel, so clever, and you're like, just fucking Google it. I'm not like genius of the year.
I've had to do this my whole life, so I'm just used to it. Because I've had
That's
like
true.
international family, so it's always in my brain of like, oh, you're 8 hours ahead or you're 6 hours ahead or whatever it is. You've not had to do that, so you're fine. Your brain doesn't do that.
No. Everyone I know and love is here, really,
Yeah.
apart from you. We were having Fakemas, and like I literally went, "Where's my phone? I haven't seen my phone for like 5 hours." And someone was like, how can you not have your phone for like 5 hours? I was like, well, everyone I talk to is in this fucking room, so I don't need it.
That's a great feeling too, when you don't have to like keep checking your phone because everyone is there in the room with you.
Oh, dude, I'm turned into one of those people that stops checking their phone now. Like, I don't know when my fucks went out the window. I think it was when I turned about 32.
Yep.
Or half of it was that, and then half of it was changing onto the right medical health meds, where I'm like, like, it can't be that fucking important, or you come to my house or you'd ring Carly.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it. It's simple. Life turns simple once you realize how many things don't matter.
Also, it's like you've just got minimal energy to like delve out to stuff. You're like, I've only got so many energy credits and they're all being taken up right now, so I've got nothing for you.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You can ask for it, but there's nothing in the bank. Carly and me cooked dinner together. When I said cook dinner together, I'm not talking about like Hallmark film, like glass of wine, laughing, cooking dinner. I'm like, right, what's next? Like military operation, like get it done as quick as humanly possible. Yeah, so we can fucking eat it. And then like I went downstairs and washed up and got my washing out of the dryer, and now I'm like, we've just got to get this podcast done and then I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
And then that's the best part of my day. The sweet release of unconsciousness.
Oh, I know. That's what every day is like for me. I'm like, okay, just get through this work day, get home, eat something, feed the dog, walk it, and then I can relax and switch my brain off.
Walk it. Earlier on as well, I was like, I'm one of these people where like whenever I'm ill, I just throw loads of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
So like I've been taking like echinacea, apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
You know, you have those like diffusers that like puff out like lavender oil or whatever you want to put in it. I've put obus oil in that, which is like eucalyptus, peppermint, like, and then I've literally been like huffing it like a bong, and then like,
oh, it's the worst. I feel for you.
I don't have time to be ill, and like it was my first week at my job this week, and it went really well, and everyone was so lovely, and I feel like I did a really good job. And then I was like, right, time for a lovely weekend doing whatever I want to do, and then I felt sick, and I was like, fuck's sake. My boyfriend Tom went, we did go to the work party. I was like, I had to go. It was a networking event. And he was like, did you have to do shots? I was like, I've had enough of this, like, holier than thou lecture.
Yeah, what do you think you're saying right now?
Yeah, then he was like, I'm not lecturing. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just really ill and I wanted to see you. Like, you know, when you're like angry, like,
yeah.
Then it just immediately turns to sadness.
Yeah. How was your work party? Mine's this week, so that'll be
Ooh,
fun.
What are you doing?
It's actually very exciting. It's going to be at the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, which is
I think you told me this.
Yeah, it's a fancy historical hotel that I've never been to.
I'm going to Google it now because you don't get many like old fancy things in LA, do you?
No. Someone was telling me this is one of the last places, apparently, that this is one of the last hotels where you can go, and if you're rich enough or popular, like some celebrity or something, you can ask for whatever you want and they will provide it for you.
Like cocaine
A
or
16
hookers
ounce
or...
bag of coke, then they'll find it for you. Apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine being the there's pictures of celebrities all over this.
Yeah.
It's like Britney
Yeah.
Spears.
Yeah, people go to dinner there all the
who's that?
time. So I'm hoping maybe
You're
I'll
gonna see some
someone.
celebrities.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Who's that guy that oh god, he is like my ultimate Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
He's there.
Was he
with
there?
Scarlett Johansson.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Of course.
It says infamous deaths inside the Hotel Marmont.
Yes, I know of one, which is John Belushi, which he was or is it Jim Belushi?
Was that where that was?
Yeah, that was there. He
yes.
OD'd.
I was just reading about that.
Really?
Wasn't that like Robin Williams? Yeah, that's so funny. And it was in a book I was reading about as well, because there was loads of questions about his autopsy.
Yeah.
And about how he died and like what time he died, and because he died of a drugs overdose, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
The woman that he was with, it's like, was it her fault? Did she give him the overdose, or did he give it to himself? And like that, they were, that's in the book that I was reading, which was really, really interesting. And Robin Williams was doing coke with him that night, and then he left.
Was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, they were hanging out together. Yeah. Well, apparently in February, Jay-Z and Beyonce threw an Oscars batch in the Chateau's garage, redone to assemble a luxe lounge.
Yep.
Leonardo DiCaprio feasted on caviar and swigged Ace of Spades champagne.
Yeah.
Caviar.
Yeah, apparently that's where they hold a lot of Oscar after parties.
Right. Oh my god, you're going to have such a good time.
I know.
Very
I'm
jealous.
really excited.
Yeah, well, we went to the M Shed in Bristol, which sounds very shit, but it's not. It's like, it's a museum.
Sounds like a garage.
And the top... Yeah, well, it kind of is. It's on the waterfront, and like they sometimes pull back the like garage bit, and it's got like an old Concorde in, because Concorde started in Bristol.
Yeah,
and then it's got the original train that was like on the side of the docks and stuff.
Cool.
And then it's also got the Colston statue that was torn down in the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah.
Like that's in there. And we had the top floor for the party, which was really nice.
Wow, fancy.
But I did an Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
I did the old say hello to everyone, say goodbye to no one vibe.
At some point, I'm going to use the line, "Let's make this wine Irish."
Yes!
In
America, like the drinking culture is just not the same.
No,
like
I was thinking about this.
It's
the other
really
day.
not.
I was thinking about how much I miss in the UK the drinking culture, like going to a pub, but then also there's like a hangover culture too. Everyone has the same idea of like, you're hungover, so you're gonna get an Indian, or you're gonna get an English breakfast, and I just miss that.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you do?
You're like a team of like, all right, let's get some Indian food and feel shit
Let's fix
together and watch a movie or something. I don't know. It's more individual here in the US. Like sometimes you might go to a diner the next day and get some food, but yeah, I just feel
You're
like
basically
there's
on
more,
your own.
Yeah, there's more camaraderie in your hangover in England. Like everyone
I think there's more camaraderie and everything in England.
Yes,
like,
I think
come on,
is.
boys, we're all in it together.
Yeah, and I was more so like I was talking to my friend about. She was like, I hate buying drinks when I go out. I just never buy drinks, and I'm like, I am exactly the opposite. When you go out with me,
what do you mean you hate buying drinks?
Just that she's just a cheap person. She'll drink beforehand.
Don't listen to this, I'm assuming.
She'll drink beforehand, like pre-game, maybe like bring a drink with her on the way. I'm the exact opposite, because I feel like in the UK and Ireland, and probably in Europe in general, there's just this feeling of like, hey, we're all drinking together, like let's buy a round.
There's a very strict round culture.
Yes.
And like you'll almost argue if it's your round or not. Like,
yeah,
like someone will go, it's my round. No, it's my round. And I'll go,
No,
I don't mind getting them. I'll get them again.
I'll get it.
Yeah, no, I'll get it. And they go, no, you got the last one. Shut up. And you're like, fine.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't want to look like a cheap cunt who didn't get the last round.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than people going after the pub, well, they fucking skipped out on their round.
Yes.
Like,
they didn't buy anyone
No
around.
one wants to be that guy.
No. But also you want everyone to be
shame.
on the same level. You all want to be on the same enjoyment level. So making sure that everyone has a round is just, you're making sure that you're all on the same level.
It's also very wrapped into politeness. Like, if somebody's drink is like nearing its end, like it's got an inch in, you go, you having the same, mate? Yeah.
Right.
And then you go to the bar.
Yeah,
you don't fucking wait. You don't sit around and watch people have an empty glass. Like, that's disgustingly rude.
Exactly. That is totally who I am here in LA. And I feel like sometimes I'm like overextending, or I'm like trying too hard because I'm like, oh, your drink is empty. Let's get another one. And other people aren't like that. It's more individual.
Oh,
it's
no,
like,
I can't cope with that.
I'll get my drink. It's fine.
Also, if someone's at your house,
Yeah.
you go, anyone for a top up? Like,
Oh,
no one. If someone's got an empty drink, you're like, Jesus Christ, somebody go put another bottle of wine.
Yes. Put a drink in their hand right
before
now.
they leave. I told you, this is why I found France so difficult. Because, like, I stood around with an empty glass and I was like, fuck, I want another glass of wine.
Yeah.
And I just looked like an English pig.
So I guess France is different. I was thinking like Europe is like that, but I think it's mostly Ireland and the UK that have that
anything
culture.
Celtic, really.
Yes.
My stepdad said that he went to a baseball game and they were like, beers are $1, and he was like, fuck, let's go and get 20. And then apparently his friend Stu was like, why? And he was like, because they're $1. And he was like, dude, they'll be $1 all night. And he was like, no, let's get them now.
Don't worry, you're not gonna miss out. It's fine. Pace yourself.
No, the English don't know how to pace themselves.
No,
we're binge drinkers.
Yeah, well, Talcza, that's why you have to come over here so that we can drink together and I can finally feel normal again when I go out drinking.
Oh, I can't wait to see you. I wish I wasn't here. Also, like, COVID's getting worse. Like, we don't have to go into work. I'm quite glad we don't have to go into work because I love working from home. I love the dog being near me. I love being able to, like, just make a cup of tea, like, and just sit in, like, disgusting clothes. Like, it's putting makeup on and hair. It's hair and makeup that I can't.
And being uncomfortable in your jeans.
Yeah, and
sitting in an office chair when you could be sitting on your comfy bed next to your pillows.
And then people are like, oh, don't wear makeup then. What? So people can come up to me and go, oh, how are you terminal then? Like, what have you got?
You tired?
Like, God, you look tired. Yes, I do, but I haven't got any makeup on. I can't go out in public looking like shit, like, especially for like a new job.
Yeah.
Because I've been ill, I've been watching a lot of TV today. I'm trying to watch A Murder Among the Mormons, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
On Netflix.
I've seen that.
Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it, but it keeps popping up for me in my algorithms.
Dude, I've tried to watch it about 4 times and every time I fall asleep.
Really?
I don't know if it's it's like a soothing music or whatever, but I'm like, fuck, I fell asleep again. Like, it's basically about a guy who like forges documents. Is he called? I think he's called like John Smith, like the guy that started Mormonism.
Oh, yeah.
He said that he got the tablets that told him all about the Book of Mormon, and they were gold, and they were like, he found them in a forest or something.
Yep.
And there's loads of like other literature around that.
Yeah. It's Joseph Smith, by the way, not John Smith.
Joseph Smith. That's the one.
Yeah, close.
I knew it was something. Yeah, I knew it was something that's like quite like a generic name. Then he said this guy like wrote a letter that was like, a white salamander led me to the golden tablets. And then someone was like, this is getting a bit like folklore-y.
Yeah.
This is getting a bit
Wizardry.
like devil worshipy, pagany.
Right.
Like, yeah, like they weren't into that. So like, and then it all basically goes to shit.
Yeah.
And then someone told me that like Sarah Joy was like, oh yeah, someone has dynamite up their ass. I'm yet to get to this bit because I keep falling asleep. So I'm just waiting for some arse dynamite. It's just not happening.
Oh my gosh. Well, report back when you get to that point. Or if any listeners have
try my
watched
best.
it, maybe give us a recap because
Yeah.
I haven't watched
Just
it.
tell me about the
keeps
arse.
falling asleep.
Just tell me about the arse dynamite because I feel like I'm never going to make it through.
Yeah.
It's not even as if it's boring. Like, it's just like quite soothing. I don't know. Like,
that's what happens every time I watch the movie Amelie. I try really hard to watch it.
Really?
And I fall asleep every time. I don't know
That's like
why.
Harry Potter. People fall asleep to Harry Potter a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Because of the music. It's really like soothing music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely music. And obviously nothing too horribly threatening happens.
No, it's a kids' movie.
Yeah. Although, you know, some people don't let the kids watch it because they think it's like witchcraft or whatever. But
yeah. Speaking of horrible things happening, why don't we get into our theme this week?
Yes, let's. And Rachel, I'm not going to fucking lie to you. I basically copy and pasted a story, like almost word for word, because I've been so fucking ill. And also, like, this isn't Wikipedia copy and pasting. I'm going to give this person full credit.
Yes.
So it's from the Journal of the Royal Society of Journalism.
Okay.
So it's like a proper like piece, and it's written by Vincent Marks and Caroline Richmond, and it's about the murder of Elizabeth Barlow. And I won't read you the title because if I read you the title, it'll give it away.
Yes. Okay.
And nobody Google that yet because again, it'll give it away.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Oh fuck! What the theory? What's the theory? Not the theory. Theme.
The theme this week is autopsies or found in the autopsy. So I felt like that was a good, you could get a lot from that theme. It could either be like some kind of mystery, or it could be, for a while I was searching for like strange things found in the autopsy. But no, there was only like, you know, one sentence of like, oh, a frog was found in somebody's body or, you know, something like that.
Ate a frog. Yeah. Was the story an old woman who lived in a shoe or whatever?
Yes, I was just reading fairy tales.
Nursery rhymes. I really wanted to do that guy. You remember that guy? And this is how it all, I don't want to start this fucking fire again, but do you remember when we did that one about Sibians?
Oh yeah.
That guy, Ben, whatever his name was, he murdered somebody and they found out because they exhumed the body and cut the hair and found out he'd been poisoned.
Oh.
So I wanted to do that, but I'd already done it. And I was like, fuck, that was such a good story.
Yeah.
But anyway, I found this one and it's a really good one. So
which episode was that? If anyone wants to go back and listen.
It's episode 17, Cryptic Killers.
Ooh,
Ben Fields.
yes.
I did.
Yes.
You did Ricky McCormick.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
Which is also that is a fantastic code thing.
Still unsolved.
Yes. Crazy, right? So that's episode 17 if you want to go back and listen to the whole fucking the Sibian saga. That's where it starts and it still hasn't ended.
Oh my gosh, was it that long ago? Wow.
86.
Yeah.
Yes, 17 we started that. Anyway.
Wow.
So on the morning of the 4th of May 1957, just after 2 a.m, Dr. David Price, a forensic pathologist, was called to the home of Elizabeth and Kenneth Barlow in a residential suburb of Bradford in Yorkshire. Yorkshire, up north. That's as much information as I could be fucked to give you. Google it. So, the story was that Kenneth Barlow had discovered his wife unconscious in the bath about 11:20 p.m. the previous night, and he called his own doctor, who diagnosed her as dead. Which I think in 1957 there's no such thing as 999 or 911. You would have to call your doctor or the local police station. Yeah. So that's not really that suspicious. So she's been diagnosed as dead. So Kenneth, a 38-year-old state registered nurse, was unemployed. He had married Elizabeth 11 months earlier and was, to all outward appearances, living happily with her and his 10-year-old son by his first wife. So they've got, so she's his stepmom. According to Kenneth, Elizabeth had tea about 5 p.m. on the day of her death. Dinner. He's saying tea, he means dinner. not actually a cup of tea.
I love that.
Yeah. Shortly afterwards, she announced that she was tired and went to bed. When Kenneth came to bed about 9:30, do you know what? I could get behind these people. She has dinner and goes to bed.
Yes.
And then he goes to bed at 9:30. That is the kind of bedtime I'm after. Please.
That's
bed
what we
by
should
10
all
max.
strive
Absolute
for.
max.
Yes.
He found that Elizabeth had vomited on the bed. So together they changed the sheets. She put on some pajamas but took them off because she felt too hot and decided to take a bath. Kenneth lay on the bed and went to sleep about 9:45 p.m. to the sound of the bath running. When he woke up at about 11:20 p.m, Elizabeth had not returned to the bed. When he went into the bathroom, he found her submerged beneath the water. He tried to lift her out, but he didn't have the strength to do it. Nevertheless, he held her head above the water until all the water had run out of the tub. He then said he tried to artificial respiration by pressing on her abdomen. Well, that's not how you do it.
Yeah. Where'd you learn that, dude?
Up.
Yeah.
As he was unable to lift her from the bath. Only after this was unsuccessful did he run next door to his neighbours who had a telephone and ask them to call the doctor. So I guess he hasn't got a phone, but in 1957, again, not that rare.
Yeah.
So the family doctor arrived 10 minutes later and found Elizabeth in the empty bath in a position simulating natural sleep.
Okay.
That's weird. You would expect her to be out of the bath on the floor, surely.
I guess so, but he said that he didn't have the strength to lift her out of the bath.
Yeah, maybe. So the doctor didn't touch her, but beyond just ascertaining that she was dead, so just checked her pulse.
Okay.
And then with such an unexpected death, he felt that he needed to call the police, who in turn called Dr. Price, who was on call as the Home Office forensic pathologist. So his main job was as a consultant pathologist at the nearby Beckett Hospital in Barnsley.
Okay.
Dr. Price suspected from the beginning that this was not a natural death for two reasons. First of all, death from drowning in a domestic bath in a previously perfectly healthy 32-year-old woman is rare. Secondly, but even more telling, was the 110 ml small cup of water that remained in the cavity where the crook of Elizabeth's arm abutted the side of the bath.
Okay. So it sounds like
this
they said that she was in like a sleeping position, which makes me kind of think like when you're asleep, you're kind of on your side. And
yeah, like a fetal position.
Yeah, kind of. And then there's a little bit of water in between.
It hasn't even moved.
Yeah, her in the bath. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So this made Kenneth's story that he tried to resuscitate her difficult to accept. And consequently, his account of the event suspicious. Meanwhile, the police had made a thorough search of the house and uncovered nothing except 2 vomit-stained pillowcases in the bathroom wash basin, a set of sweat-drenched pajamas in the bedroom, and a couple of used syringes in the kitchen.
Syringes?
Because of the used syringes... Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the used syringes, the police searched the house for vials of insulin or other injectable medications, but they didn't find any. Dr. Price began a post-mortem in the local mortuary at 5:45 a.m, only 3.5 hours after he had first seen Elizabeth's body.
Wow.
And only 6 hours after she died. So this motherfucker is on his job.
Yeah, he's
well done.
getting to it.
Well done, sir.
Yeah.
He noted that her pupils were really widely dilated and that there was a blood-stained froth in her nose, mouth and throat. Samples of her lungs, when examined under a microscope, were bulky, congested and wet. They also revealed fluid retention and small hemorrhages, confirming the initial diagnosis of death by drowning. Apart from this, he found no abnormalities, but he did observe that Elizabeth was 8 weeks pregnant.
Oh.
See, I always think that could be a reason to kill someone.
Yeah.
In 1957, if you don't want another kid.
Right.
In addition, Dr. Price took the precaution of collecting blood from a number of different sites in the body, as well as some urine from the bladder to send to the poisons laboratory, just in case she had been poisoned. Dr. Price is on your ass, Kenneth.
I love it.
Dr. Price is taking you the fuck down.
He is on top of his game, and you have no chance.
Yeah. Whenever I hear the word Kenneth, I just think of the 10-inch dildo from Peep Show, but whatever. The samples were examined by Dr. Alan Curry of the Northeastern Forensic Science Laboratory, who went on to become one of the most distinguished directors in the UK's nationwide forensic science service. This is being examined by some top-notch motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Dr. Curry found none of the common poisons or abortion-causing substances in any of the samples that he examined. So they are, I guess, suspicious that he wanted didn't want her to have the baby.
Right.
And that would be what's it called, a motive.
Mm-hmm.
So none of that's happening. Nevertheless, Dr. Price and his senior police colleagues remained convinced that Elizabeth had been rendered unconscious before she drowned, and they considered the possibility that she had been injected with insulin, and that would explain her excessive sweating and dilated pupils before death.
Yeah.
So 4 days later, on the 8th of May, the decision was made to re-examine Elizabeth's body more thoroughly and under a bright light. On this occasion, with the benefit, like, I'm into like doing your job at 5:45 a.m, but you're probably not on your best game.
Yeah, maybe turn some lights on and have some coffee.
Have a coffee.
And a little nap first.
Have a nap.
Yeah.
Come back to this in the morning, like when you're on your top game. Yeah. But on this occasion, with a magnifying glass, they found 2 hypodermic injection sites in each buttock.
Oh.
Dr. Price removed these and their surrounding tissues and stored them in a refrigerator until he could find a scientist with the expertise and facilities to undertake an insulin test.
Wow.
But it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
The methods available at the time were comparatively crude by today's standards and can only be performed by a handful of specialist laboratories. They relied on finding the dose that caused hypoglycemic convulsions in mice and comparing the sample with standardized samples containing known amounts of insulin. It was a method used at the time to measure the strength of pharmaceutical insulin extracted from animal pancreases before releasing it for use by patients.
Okay.
So they're basically testing it on mice to see how much they can give a human.
Yeah.
Dr. Gerd of the research laboratories of the Boots Drug Company. So there's Boots in England. It's like
it's like our CVS.
CVS, yeah.
Except it's a little bit nicer. Like you guys, it's like slightly more.
They have like makeup and hair dye,
but there's like nice makeup. Like in CVS, it's like the cheap makeup.
Oh yeah, no, there's nice stuff in Boots.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have their own range called Number 7, which again this isn't an advert, but it's really expensive and nice.
Yes. Yeah.
My mum uses it. Yeah. Yeah. So they were one of only 3 British manufacturers of insulin at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So they said that they would do the test. So Dr. Gerd didn't hold out much hope of success. He thought that the technique might not be sensitive enough to detect the small amount of insulin that would be found in the tissues of someone who had received an insulin injection.
Okay.
So I've had a boyfriend that was diabetic and like you process insulin.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that stops when you die or if your body like processes it.
Yeah.
But you've only got a certain amount of time really.
Right.
So I guess that's why he froze the flesh that he took. By the way, like if somebody doesn't understand what insulin is or what diabetic people have, it's basically your pancreas is what controls the amount of sugar that you have in your body. So if you have too much sugar in your body, you could start to like shake and feel really hot. So the insulin is what your pancreas produces to control that.
Yeah.
And people with diabetes don't have that. So they don't produce their own insulin naturally. So they have to inject it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they accidentally have too much sugar, they have to inject insulin. So they have to test their blood, see how much sugar's in it, and then inject the right amount of insulin.
Right. So was she diabetic or like was someone in the house diabetic, which is why they would have insulin?
No. Oh. Because there's no... Yeah, because they said they looked around the house for insulin. They couldn't find any. Whereas like if you were diabetic, you have insulin everywhere and you have loads of it.
Yeah.
So he's obviously got it in special to use.
Suspicious.
And you can kill yourself with insulin. I don't exactly know how it works, but there's plenty of cases of people who have committed suicide by injecting too much insulin. And there's loads of cases of people that have killed somebody else by injecting them with insulin.
Right.
And as I said, because it works its way out of the body and because the needle mark that people inject themselves with is so small, it's really hard to detect. Yeah. And people don't usually look for it in an autopsy.
Right.
Because they don't expect people who aren't diabetic to be anywhere near insulin. Because it has to be prescribed by a doctor. You can't go and buy it from a chemist.
It sounds like they were already suspicious of this guy, which is why he probably started examining the body at 5:45 in the morning, because he was like, I want to catch this before something leaves her body.
Yeah. I don't know what happens when you inject too much insulin
Mm-hmm.
or why, but you basically fall into a coma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why she would have drowned if she had a bath.
Right.
Yeah, so he thought the technique might not be sensitive enough. However, he did find easily measurable quantities of insulin in the extract of tissues taken from Elizabeth buttocks.
Wow.
For example, Dr. Price had removed tissues from other corpses, which Dr. Gerd treated in the same way. As he expected, he found no trace of insulin in them, but the findings from Elizabeth were clearly abnormal and therefore highly suspicious. So he must have injected her with so much.
Yeah.
If they're still in there, because like he said, sometimes he knows people have died of insulin injections, and he couldn't find any. So on the 5th of July, 2 months after Elizabeth's death, Dr. Gerd reported that he had been able to recover 3 separate samples of Elizabeth's buttocks, a total of about 84 units of insulin. And that's enough to keep 2 insulin-dependent diabetic patients going for a whole day.
Wow.
So he gave her 2 days' worth of insulin.
Which is
for
already too much
one person.
because she doesn't need it. She's not diabetic.
Any insulin
Right.
that you give someone if they don't need it is too much.
Yeah.
And he's given her 2 lots for enough for 2 days.
Yeah.
So that's just fucking mental. So again, Elizabeth didn't have diabetes and she wasn't prescribed insulin. So on the basis of this evidence, Kenneth Barlow was confronted by the police on the 26th of July, where he admitted to injecting Elizabeth, but not with insulin. He said he had used, with her permission, ergometrine, a drug used legitimately in obstetrics at the conclusion of a delivery, and by lay people when they can get hold of it to try and induce an abortion, which was clearly illegal.
Yeah.
He was unaware that this possibility had already been considered and ruled out by a toxicological... Sorry, this is actually... The words in this are quite complicated. By the toxicological examination. So they'd already tested for that and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So he was like, we were just trying to induce an abortion, and it just went wrong.
Yeah. But also he didn't tell that to police, did he? In the first place.
In the first instance. Yeah, no. And also abortion was illegal back then.
Yeah.
So especially at home fucking inject abortions.
Yeah.
No. They also examined the needles and the syringes found in the kitchen, and they didn't find the chemical on them, ergometrine. They just found insulin. Between the time that Kenneth Barlow was charged with murdering Elizabeth and his case coming to court, a much, much more sensitive and precise method for measuring insulin in bodily fluids had become available. This involved measuring the uptake of radioactive glucose by muscle tissue, incubated at body temperature for several hours in a flask, containing a sample of the patient's blood serum, diluted in a special type of saline. I mean, fucking hell, how are we supposed to understand this? I'm sorry that I even left that in.
It
so
sounds
sorry I left that in.
complicated and scientific, and we believe that it happened, but we don't understand it.
I'm just gonna delete that now.
Yeah.
See you later. Back to the bit I can understand. So, Dr. Curry asked Dr. Wright to examine the extracts made from Elizabeth's buttocks. His result confirmed those of Dr. Gerd. To ensure that the methods that he was using measured insulin and not just something like it, Dr. Wright used 4 different techniques to improve the specificity.
Okay.
So basically, they're being extremely thorough.
Mm-hmm.
He measured the glucose content of the blood Dr. Price had removed from Elizabeth's heart, as it would be low if she had died of an overdose of insulin. Imagine his surprise when, instead of finding a low blood glucose concentration, he found it to be abnormally high. To someone less expert than Dr. Curry, this might have been the end of the matter. He knew, however, that scientists had previously observed a rise in the concentration of glucose in the blood that was collected from the right side of the heart of people who had died a violent death, but that it was usually low in blood collected from leg veins or from the left side of the heart. That's crazy fact.
Yeah. That makes sense, though, because, I mean, your heart is
What, you think it's like an adrenaline thing?
Yeah, that's what all your activities. So if you're getting blood from, like, the lower part of your body, which isn't that affected, it makes sense.
Yeah. With the assistance of various forensic pathologists who collected blood from victims of violent death for him to analyse, Dr. Curry confirmed the earlier discovery that blood glucose concentrations in the blood from the right side of the heart do not reflect that in the rest of the body after death. As a result, the investigating team were not put off pursuing an otherwise very strong case by what, on the face of it, seemed a huge obstacle. So they're like, fuck that, we know why it's there. Yeah, so with Dr. Gerd's results to go on, there seemed little doubt that Elizabeth had been injected with insulin, and that the prosecution proceeded to trial even before Dr. Wright's results became available. The prosecution recognised that some people deliberately inject themselves with insulin for a variety of reasons, including suicide, as I said earlier, but as it is difficult for anyone to inject themselves in their buttocks, it was obvious to them that someone else had done it, and that person was Kenneth. Like, in diabetics always inject themselves in their stomach, like the flabbiest part of their stomach. They just pinch it and like inject in there. Before the trial, it emerged that earlier in the year, Kenneth had told a fellow employee at the hospital where he was working about an accident his wife had suffered the previous September. He claimed he'd found her collapsed in a hot bath, but rescued her by removing her from it. He also said to his fellow workers over a period of 2 years that it would be easy to kill someone with insulin.
Oh my gosh.
Since it was undetectable in the body after death.
Ding, ding, ding. There's the answer.
To be fair, somebody said to me at the Christmas party, how do you kill someone without anyone finding out? And I went, insulin. I was just like...
Well, yeah, so we know this now, but like, for you to go to work and be like, hey, do you know the best way to kill someone without
Did you know? Okay, that information was solicited from me. It wasn't just given freely.
Yes, somebody asked.
Yeah. Also, yeah, he's previously said that he was able to lift her out of a bath. He's a bullshitter on many fronts. There appeared to be no motive for killing his wife apart from that he didn't want her to have a child.
Okay.
He denied the charge of murder, but at his trial in December 1957, he couldn't explain the insulin found in Elizabeth's body apart from suggesting that she had administered it to herself. The absence of insulin vials and of any insulin in the 2 syringes that had been found, together with the improbability of self-administration in her buttocks, all went against this possibility.
Yeah.
So the jury found Kenneth Barlow guilty on the evidence, and Mr. This is a horrible name. Mr. Justice Diplock sentenced him to life imprisonment on the 13th of December 1957.
Wow.
He's lucky he didn't get the death penalty. That was still around.
Yeah.
He was released from prison 26 years later in 1984, still maintaining his innocence.
What?
So it turns out some people are allowed out even if they say they're fucking innocent.
Yeah.
Although usually described as the first case of murder by insulin to lead to conviction, Elizabeth Barlow did not in fact die from an insulin overdose. Although it played a crucial role in her death, the amount injected into her was sufficient to render her unconscious, and whether she would or would not have died, had Kenneth left her long enough, will never be known. It's probable that he had expected her to die more quickly than she did, so he made the decision to drown her. If he had left her in the bed, she might as well have been dead in the morning, or at least have suffered irreversible brain damage, and all of the insulin that he had injected would have been absorbed into her bloodstream and destroyed. There would have been no smoking gun for the pathologist and toxicologist to find, and there would have been no case against him.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is the murder of Elizabeth Barlow.
That's crazy. So if he hadn't have made her take a bath...
She's just lucky that... He's just lucky that she threw up.
Right.
So he must have been like, go and have a bath and I'll do the bed or whatever.
It sounds really sad. Like, she was pregnant. He didn't want the baby. Maybe they both didn't want the baby. And was she willing?
He just never gave it a chance.
Was she willing to be like, okay, yeah, let's try this abortion thing? And then it just went awry and he got in too deep and killed her.
I think it sounds like a classic Chris Watts situation where the wife's like, I'm so excited I'm pregnant, and he's like, me too, gonna secretly kill you though.
Yeah, I feel bad. I think that's what happened. The 10-year-old who had to deal with all this, that must have been horrible for them. Traumatic.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Also, if you watch, I think I've mentioned this before, but if you watch Louis Theroux documentary called A Different Brain. There's a woman on there and she's so funny. Like, she's really sweet, and like she's basically in like assisted living, so she has her own flat, but like people come around and like help her do stuff and make sure that she's okay. And Louis asks her like, what happened to you? And she's like, oh, I was in an accident. And then when he asks her mum, her mum says no, she was really depressed and she had diabetes and she tried to kill herself with an insulin overdose and it didn't work and she just had brain damage.
Wow.
So she doesn't remember trying to do that.
Wow.
But yeah, she was just like, no, I was just in an accident.
That's
and
so
now
sad.
she's like, yeah, in like assisted living, basically. Yeah, it's a really good documentary. It's called A Different Brain. But again, like I said, it's hard to get Louis Theroux documentaries over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I wish it was more
Which
accessible
is a
here.
travesty.
Yeah.
It's a travesty.
I know.
Rachel, if this was the 90s, do you know what I'd do? I would get a VHS player and I would record it off the telly and then I'd send you the VHS.
Oh, man. Yeah, I gotta figure out like the VPN thing or whatever, because there's a few British things that I can't get over here that I would love to get. But
it's so easy. It's so easy. Also, like, I think you have to put in a British address, but I'll just give you mine. And then
okay, yeah.
In fact, no, I'll just give you my. Use a VPN and I'll just give you my login.
Sure.
And then you can, because all the Louis Theroux documentaries are on the BBC iPlayer. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There's a few things that are similar out here, but they're more American. I was thinking like, why don't we get these things over here? And I think maybe it's the humor. It wouldn't be that popular, but I feel like.
Oh my god, that documentary is one of the funniest ones ever, because they're obviously like they've got brain damage.
Yeah.
But they're perfectly functioning.
Yeah.
They're just different people now.
Right.
Like, so some of them are like, you know, a bit more quick to temper, or it's just like they're a different person, basically.
Sure.
Then there's like a meme that goes round and like Louis Theroux is asking a completely serious question, but like there's this kid and I think he was in a car crash and that's what happened to him. But his mum is like, he's completely different, like different person. And he's like, okay, well, what sort of stuff does he like? And she's like, oh, he really likes the football team Arsenal. And then Louis Theroux just goes really seriously, did you support Arsenal before the brain injury?
Oh,
he's not taking the piss though, I don't think. I think he's just being completely normal. But now it's like a meme now.
Yeah. Like, what made you choose this terrible decision to support Arsenal?
Yeah. And there's another, I'm sorry, I'm ruining the entire documentary, but there's like another guy on there, I can't remember his name. He really wants to not live in assisted living anymore because he's like, I'm fine. But then I think he was let out of assisted living for a little bit. And then have you ever heard of like cuckooing? Like where somebody lives in your house and like takes advantage of you and like deals drugs out of your house, basically?
No, I don't know what that phrase is.
I can't remember the phrase, if that's the right phrase, but like, yeah, basically it's because cuckoos like go into other birds' nests and like steal their babies or steal their nest.
Yeah.
But basically it's like, yeah, they take vulnerable people, like old people or people who need, or people who have learning difficulties, and they like say, oh, I'm your friend, and then they'll like go in their house and then they'll use their money and all their like stuff, and they just basically like run a drug operation out of their house, or they just take complete advantage of them, basically. And there's nothing that they can do to say get out because they're just too vulnerable. So that kind of happened to him when he was let out. So they were like, we're really sorry, but like we can't let that happen again, like you need some more guidance, basically. And he's really angry about it, but also like he does pranks. He's like telling Louis Theroux about this prank that he did, and they're like, look, we know that this is like really funny to you and it's okay to do it in here, but if you did that out in the real world, people would be really upset with you. And he's like, oh, okay. And then Louis like, what did you do? And he goes, there's like a 50-year-old carer called like Jan or something, and he's like, so I got this brick and it's like a plastic brick, it's made of foam, but it looks like a real brick. And he's like, and I went to throw it at Jan and went, Jan, catch. And apparently she like screamed. But he was like trying to tell the story, but he was like laughing so much at his own story that he couldn't even tell it. He was like, it was a plastic brick. They were like, you cannot throw plastic bricks at people.
Poor Jan.
And Jan was like, I fucking shit myself. I can't remember his name now, but he honestly thought it was the funniest thing on earth. And it was. So like,
I love Louis Theroux for bringing us these stories.
Oh, I know. Oh, it's so good. There's more though. There's even more than that.
Yeah.
Like there's even more pranks that he does that are brilliant.
What's it called
I
again?
highly recommend watching. A Different Brain.
Okay. A Different
by
Brain.
Louis Theroux. Yeah.
That was a good little break from murder, but I think we should get back to our stories this week.
Jan literally thinks
Poor
she's getting a brick through her face. Oh god.
Oh.
Like that's the last thing you need at work. Like, that's funny to everyone but Jan.
You just want to go to work, do your job, and go home and relax. You don't want to have to worry about getting a brick in your abdomen.
What happened today? Someone tried to throw a brick at me. Oh. Anyway, sorry about that. Carry on, Rach.
No apologies necessary. All right, let's get into my story. Also, my dog is right on my lap, so if you hear him snoring, that's what it is.
Oh, I wondered what that noise was. I thought it was you like farting or like your stomach or something, and I was just like, I'll just breeze past it.
All right, so I'm not going to read the title. I'm just going to get right into it because, yeah. Also, kind of like you, I didn't like completely steal this story, but a lot of it is from a Vanity Fair article, which I didn't know this, but Vanity Fair, I got super into it after I was researching this. They have a whole crime archive that you can read all the different articles.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's all kinds of different like bizarre stories and classic stories like the Menendez brothers or just weird stories that I'm about to get into like this one. So if you want something to read and it's not too long and you want an interesting story, I would recommend checking out the Vanity Fair Crime Archive.
Okay.
So yeah, this specific article is called The Body in Room 348 and it was written in May 2013 by Mark Bowden. So a lot of the story, the details come from this article.
Okay.
Amongst other places. So on the evening of Wednesday, September 15th, 2010, in room 348 of the MCM Elegante Hotel in Beaumont, Texas. It sounds fancy.
Elegante.
Yeah. Or elegante.
Elegant or elegante.
I was going to say
French
elegant.
it up.
I know. There's a little thing on the E on the end.
Well, you're right then. It is elegante.
It is, but I was going to say elegant, but then there's also a 2020 episode, and that's what they say in it, so I figured I would
Don't argue with 2020. They know
but
what
I'll tell
doing.
you, it's not an elegant hotel. It's just a standard Best Western type.
I can imagine.
Crappy 1980s rug pattern and simple rooms that you can smoke in. So nothing elegant about it. So that's in Beaumont, Texas. 55-year-old Greg Fleniken had just finished his day's work as a traveling businessman in the oil industry. Him and his brother owned an oil business together. He followed his regular routine after work, which was getting comfy in his hotel bed with his lighter, a pack of cigarettes, and a couple of candy bars next to him while he watched TV. Sounds relaxing.
Dude knows how to live.
Yes. Fleniken was from Louisiana, where he lived with his wife, Susie, and he would travel to Texas every week for work. So he would go at the beginning of the week, drive to Texas, which was only 2 hours away from his house in Louisiana, and he would stay the week in Texas at this hotel. This evening, he rented Iron Man 2 on pay-per-view, probably to drown out the noise of the men next door partying. At some point in the early evening, Greg had attempted to make popcorn, but his microwave tripped the breaker. He called down to the front desk, and they sent someone up to resolve the issue. That was around 7:30. And then right before that, around 7 p.m., he wrote an email to Susie, which he ended the email with, "You're doing good, babe."
Aww.
Yeah.
He's so, like, wholesome.
Yes.
Like,
And
he's, like, he didn't rent porn. He
Nope.
rented Iron Man. He didn't get drunk. He ate popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
And then he told his wife she's doing good.
Yeah.
Like, good guy.
I know. I feel like he's 55. He's like, my partying days are over. I just want to relax with a couple candy bars and a cigarette, watch a movie, and go to sleep. That's it.
100%
Yes.
is what I'd be doing as well. So, yeah.
So the next morning, Susie had not heard. She had not heard from him. He usually checked in the morning every day. So she called his coworkers at his office to go check on him. When they knocked on the door to room 348, there was no answer. So they grabbed the hotel manager to open the door. When they were finally able to get in the room, they found Greg on the floor. He was doubled over with a cigarette still in between his fingers. He was dead. An ambulance was called and detectives were sent to the scene. To them, it seemed like Greg had died of natural causes. He was a heavy smoker, and earlier in his life, he was a heavy drinker. In every article, it was like he never went to the doctor, he wasn't like a huge exerciser, and he had a sweet tooth. So it wasn't like he wasn't super unhealthy, but, you know, he was a chain smoker.
He wasn't like Marathon Man.
No, yeah. So they just assumed he probably had a heart attack or something like that.
That's sad.
There was also no signs of foul play in his room. His wallet next to his bed had $1,000 still in it, and there was no sign of forced entry and no blood or obvious injuries on Greg. When Greg's body was taken away to the medical examiner, Detective Scott Apple spent time in the hotel questioning some of the neighboring rooms. Most, if not all, of the neighbors heard nothing. Nothing was suspicious. The room next door to Greg's, room 349, were a couple of men from Wisconsin, also there for work. They were up late the night before partying, so they had left their room a few times. At one point, they said they heard Greg talking on the phone, and later on in the night, when they were coming back to their room, they heard a cough, but that was it. Nothing else.
One cough.
Which is kind of sad if he's dying in the next room.
Well, that was his dying cough.
Yeah. Detective Apple was about to close the case when news from the autopsy stopped him. The coroner's report had found severe trauma in Greg's lower abdomen. So I'm about to get into it. If you don't really want to hear about this, then maybe speed forward.
Why are you here anyway?
Why are you here? This is all about autopsies, so we're going to get into the body.
It's been way grosser than this.
Yes. I just wanted to give warning.
It's fair.
So they found a 1/2 inch laceration on his scrotum, where it was also swollen.
Oh, God.
He had bruising in his groin area and across the right hip. There was a surprising...
I didn't realize you could kick someone to death via the dick, but apparently you can.
Well, you're where the detectives' heads are at.
Okay.
So he had bruising on his groin and across the right hip. There was a surprising amount of internal bleeding, as well as small lacerations in his intestines, on the stomach and liver, as well as 2 broken ribs and a hole in the right atrium of his heart.
It's like he's been through a mangle.
Yeah, but it was all internal. There was no blood in the room.
Whoa.
Yeah. The conclusion came back that this was a homicide. Greg had been killed by blunt force trauma. It seemed to the coroner that he had been kicked really hard or something fell on him. They assumed he had a blow to the chest as well, because that's the thing that...
Because the heart.
Yeah, might have caused the hole in the heart. Detective Apple was confused but began researching Greg's past, interviewing friends and family in his life. What he found was a great man who was loved by almost everyone. He had virtually no enemies. His marriage was solid. He and Susie had been married before, they divorced, and then they remarried. So kind of romantic.
That's happened to my grandparents. Did that.
I know someone else that happened to as well.
Yeah, my grandma divorced him and was like, sort your shit out. And then he did. So she was like, okay, I'll marry you again. It's fair enough.
Yeah. By 2010, they had been together for a decade. So they had already been remarried and everything was great. And all the pictures that you see of them, they both look so happy. She's so pretty. Aww. He's pretty good looking as well. Like, they're both just like a really good looking couple and they look happy. Like, they had fun together.
I barely know the guy and I think he sounds like he sounds like a treat.
He really does. On the 2020 episode, they interviewed his best friend since they were 10, and he said Greg would not only give you the shirt off of his back, but he would give you his shoes as well. So that's the kind of man that Greg was. So no enemies to speak of that would come and do this to him.
Yeah.
Susie was also devastated, but assumed because of his unhealthy habits that it was just his time. Like, a lot of his friends and family thought that it was natural. So they were all shocked to find that this was now a homicide investigation. So Detective Apple spent time on the last person to see Greg, the maintenance worker who came up to the room to fix the trip switch after the microwave broke. The man had a history with the police. He had several sex offenses under his name. Investigators thought that it might have been a strange case of sexual assault, considering the injuries that Greg had sustained. However, the evidence could not prove this, and other than looking at the maintenance worker's past, there was no other leads to go down to pursue anything further. So he just kind of went off clean.
I mean, like, Greg doesn't really seem like his type.
No, I mean, there wasn't much more information about this man.
Usually, sex offenders, like, it'll be
an MO.
Sexual offenses toward women.
Yes.
Like, the vast majority.
Right. And also, they had looked at the timeline of everything. The maintenance worker went there at 7:30. Greg was still alive. He had sent an email to his wife. He was still alive. You know, the timeline just didn't work out with anything that the maintenance worker could have done. And also, no blood or anything like that. So it was kind of clear that even though this guy was sketchy, it wasn't him.
Well, just thank God there wasn't a woman whose microwave wasn't working.
Well, I mean, we know nothing about this guy's past, so we'll just leave it there.
I judge him.
All right. So they had a second theory, and that was that the men partying next door. So it was kind of loud that night. Even though it was a Wednesday night.
Guys.
Yeah.
Wednesday night? No.
So the room was registered to a Lance Mueller and Tim Steinmetz, and they had another visitor by the name of Trent Pisano. All three men were seen on the hotel security cameras throughout the night, going to the hotel bar and then back to their room with a few bags of alcohol. Police thought that maybe at some time during the night, the men had gotten too drunk and maybe one of them went next door to pick a fight. However, with ample hotel security cameras, nothing like that was caught for investigators to go by. And
that was going to be my guess.
When they questioned the men the next morning, all three of them were helpful, giving their IDs and cell phone numbers and telling investigators of their evening, with Lance and Tim partying in their room and then being joined by Trent Pisano, who he was staying in a separate room, but that they had all not seen anything out of the ordinary.
Curious.
Yeah. With no leads, the case was stale for about 9 months until Susie, who was super frustrated that nothing was happening, she hired a lawyer as well as her own private investigator, retired New York police officer Ken Brennan, who worked alongside Detective Apple to look into the case.
Susie, you're doing good, babe.
Yeah. And this guy, he's in the 2020 episode. He's exactly what a retired New York cop looks and sounds like. White hair.
Nailed it.
Straightforward.
I knew it. Distinguished.
Very strong New York accent. I could have watched an interview with him all day. He was just, he knew how to talk.
Yeah. He's seen some shit.
He's seen some shit. He knows when things are suspicious. So, even though it had been several months since the murder, so Detective Apple and Ken Brennan went back to room 348 to search for anything out of the ordinary. They searched the bed and examined the crime scene photos. It wasn't until Detective Brennan shined a flashlight on the wall and noticed an indentation in the wall. He wondered if there was a matching one in the neighboring room 349. There was, but this one had been patched over with toothpaste. The two holes lined up and marked the trajectory of a bullet. It entered the wall in the electrician's room and exited in Greg's room. A laser showed that the bullet would have struck the bed.
Oh my god, I'm so confused.
Yeah, well, we're gonna explain it. We're getting into it.
Okay. This is like an episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
It is, yeah.
That's been solved.
It's been solved. So,
yeah.
The two detectives came to the conclusion that Greg was lying in bed when the bullet passed through the wall, hitting him in the scrotum. The bullet had bounced around inside his body, causing all the damage, and the folds of flesh hid the entry wound and instead left a mark looking like a bruise. Greg had already been cremated at this point, but the investigators took their findings along with the autopsy report to the medical examiner, who agreed with their hypothesis that he had been shot.
In the ball.
I know.
What are the chances?
What are the chances, Talcza?
That is such bad luck.
Yeah.
God. Greg.
So, it was almost a year after Greg's murder that police flew out to Wisconsin to interview again the 3 electricians that were in room 349 that night. Okay, so the men had stayed in Texas for several months following that incident, and they had finished up their jobs. They had been working, they were just doing like a short few month gig, and that's why they were in Texas. And so they had finished that job, and they had all gone back to Wisconsin for some time. This time, their stories included more details than before. Police went to Steinmetz first, and they said like, hey, we know what really happened, so you might as well tell us. And this is what he said. They had been drinking beer.
Okay.
Mueller asked Pisano to fetch a bottle of whiskey from his car and to also bring up his pistol, a 9mm Ruger.
Why?
Yeah. It sounds like
For what purpose?
Mueller is just a shithead that wanted to like have a little bit of excitement just on their drinking night on Wednesday night.
Showing off.
Yeah.
Stop showing off in front of the other 2 boys.
Take a note out of Greg's book and just chill out with a couple of candy bars and watch a movie. It's Wednesday night, guys.
Watch Iron Man and calm down.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So when Pisano returned with the whiskey and the gun, Mueller took out the gun and, to the others' alarm, started playing with it. He pointed it at Steinmetz, who dropped to the floor and cursed at him, and he was pointing it at Pisano's direction at the foot of the bed when it went off accidentally.
What a dick.
I know, right? He just sounds like a shithead.
Loaded gun.
Yeah. In a hotel room, in a shitty hotel room. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So it went off. Pisano thought for a second that he had been shot, but then turned to see a hole in the wall behind him. Mueller freaked out, they both said. Mueller bundled up the gun and took it back out to his car. When he returned, Pisano had left for his own room, disgusted. Mueller and Steinmetz went downstairs to the bar. When Steinmetz and Mueller had seen the police at room 348 the next morning and had seen the gurney, they were disturbed. He said, so Steinmetz told Detective Brennan, I thought he had killed that guy. But obviously they didn't say anything about that whole incident.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Steinmetz. After his confession and a corroborating one from Pisano, investigators had Steinmetz call Lance Mueller on a recorded line. He told him that he had confessed to police and that Lance would be wise to do the same. And it sounds like Mueller got drunk and decided to call retired cop Brennan and explain himself. And Brennan was like, you're drunk. Get a fucking lawyer. we're going to put you in jail.
Yeah, without a lawyer. I was
Yeah.
just about to say that.
Yeah.
You don't call a cop, mate. You call a fucking lawyer.
Right. But it sounds like all three of the men felt pretty guilty, and they had all like come up with this story of like, oh, we never saw anything or heard anything. And
That's
especially Steinmetz felt more guilty than anything else. So he confessed.
Yeah.
So Mueller was charged with manslaughter. On October 29th, 2012, so this is 2 years after the murder, Susie Fleniken, Scott Apple, Ken Brennan, and a group of Greg's family and friends sat in the courtroom for the sentencing of Lance Mueller. The electrician had entered a no contest plea to manslaughter. Mueller was sentenced to 10
It's
years.
for the best.
Yeah. Mueller was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Susie was allowed to speak to Mueller at his sentencing, and this is what she said. I have waited over 2 years to look you in the face, eye to eye, and simply have the chance to speak directly to you. She said, you would never have come forward with the truth. You murdered him. No, you didn't intentionally seek him out to murder him, but you murdered him. And with every lie you told, with every intentional selfish deception, with every cover-up over and over again, you saw his body taken out of the room in a body bag the next day. You knew you killed him. He meant nothing to you.
Oh.
Yeah. As Mueller was escorted to
sad.
prison that day after his sentencing, he looked shocked. Susie said later on, she was
Really?
like, yeah.
He really is a fucking dipshit.
He really is. But she said later on, she was like, I was pretty satisfied with the look on his face. She got to say what she needed to say and saw their guilt.
Some people would insist that he doesn't even deserve to go to prison. Some people would be like, it's an accident.
It was an accident, but dude, you guys all lied about it, and it wouldn't have taken a whole nother year for them to figure out what happened if you had just told the truth.
Also, shooting, there are laws, I think pretty sure there's laws in England, and I know there's laws in America, that like, it's like called like gross negligence or something. Like, if for example, if you just close your eyes and shoot, you know there's a chance you might kill someone.
Right.
So
if you're drunk,
you are responsible for whatever happens.
Yeah, if you're drunk and you have a gun, it's probably not a wise thing to be shooting that gun.
No, get a fucking clue.
Yeah. Get real.
Thanks for coming to mine and Rachel's TED Talk.
Yeah, he went off to prison. That was 2012. So it's been almost 10 years, so he might be free next year. I haven't really seen any updates other than Susie Fleniken. She believed that if the men or hotel security had acted responsibly and checked to be sure her husband was okay after the bullet was fired, there might still have been time to save his life. So she filed a civil suit against Lance, Tim, Trent, and the hotel. But that's pretty much it. She eventually dropped the case, and
really? She could have got, like, I don't think she's getting any money off those guys. Even when, like, OJ was found guilty, they're like, you owe us $20 trillion or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they're never going to get that money. They just did it so that they can prove that he was responsible.
Yeah.
But, like, suing a hotel, like, you could potentially get money out of that hotel.
That's
if I was
very
her,
true.
I would have dropped the case against the guys and concentrated on the hotel chain.
Yeah, we don't really know what went down, and maybe she wanted to give it up because she just wanted to move on. I could see that being the case.
It takes a long time, stuff
Yeah.
like that, doesn't it? Like, you have to be really determined and ready to, like, go the distance.
Right.
And for it to be your life, which is not good for everybody.
So that's the story of the body in room 348.
That was so good. You've been killing it recently. I've been really letting the side down.
No, not at all.
No, that's not true. Salman Rushdie last week was good, but this week was not my best work.
No,
I'm ready to admit that. So next week I'll bring it.
Your story was great
Thanks,
this week.
mate.
You do a good job every week. But yeah, I love finding stories that are just like, there's some kind of twist in there. Like, you don't see it coming.
Dude, that story should have been titled Mystery Testicle Wound. Like, isn't that a band name?
I didn't want to focus on that too much because it's also kind of sad that happened to him, and he was such a lovely man. And, you know, who would want to be known for that happening and you dying in that way? So it's a sad and weird story, but I didn't want to title it that.
It's not the most glamorous. Yeah, I mean, it's not the most glamorous way to go, but fuck, it's so interesting.
Right.
That, like, also, it's like the ballistics of it. If you shoot someone in the testicle, it, like, ricochets around in their body and, like, might have hit his heart at one point.
Yeah, and broke his ribs.
How crazy is that?
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it never had an exit wound.
No.
And think of the power of that, because it's also gone through a wall. Right. Okay, that hotel wall was probably flimsy as fuck.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it's gone through a wall and then it's taken, like, a whole route around his body to finally stop.
Yeah.
It's just crazy what damage, like, a bullet can do.
Also painful. I mean, it was all internal, but they said that it probably would have been over in less than 30 seconds. So...
you want to hope so, right?
Yeah, he got up.
Do you know
went to the door.
He would not have had he wouldn't have had a fucking clue, like, what just happened.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Like, why am I in extreme pain?
Right. Relaxing in my hotel room.
So I love that he still had a fag on. So he just died doing what he loved, which was smoking. And watching Iron Man.
Watching Iron Man, eating some candy bars. Having a cigarette.
It's a good way to go.
Kind of relaxing. Over in less than a minute. At least he had that.
No one suffered too badly in ours. Like, the insulin injection as well. I mean, I don't know how he managed to stab her in the arse, like, without her knowing.
That's
like,
why I think
maybe he went for, like...
she was willing. Maybe she was like, okay, I guess I'll go through with this.
That's what you're saying about the abortion.
Yeah.
He told her it was abortion stuff, but it wasn't. That's a very good point.
Yeah. How else could he have?
Yeah, how else are you going to stab someone in the arse without them noticing?
Right.
Or you just go for, like, an arse slap, like a 50s style arse slap of, like, hey, sugar. Like, and then she's like, ow.
Yeah.
Why did you, like, pinch me when you slapped me?
Right.
Like, yeah, I think it might have been like he said, well, and that would explain, like, her being sick and then her saying, I'm going to have a bath.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, well, this is happening.
Right.
So I might as well, like,
try and
make myself
feel
comfortable.
Better. Yeah. Both interesting stories this week.
Yeah, really good. Also, I've got one documentary recommendation and then we can get out of here. It's called Untold, The Deal with the Devil, and it's on Netflix. And it's about Christy Martin.
Yeah.
And she's the one I sent you today. She's a boxer. Mm-hmm. I quite like boxing as a sport. I quite like watching it when it's on. She is one of the best boxers I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. Like, and it's a true crime story. Small Town Murder do an episode on her that's really, really good. But the documentary is incredible because you get to see her boxing and she's so good at it. Wow. And, like, honestly, her trainer said she had a granite chin and she could knock someone out in one punch. Wow. Like, she just knew where to hit someone in the face so that they just fell to the floor. Yeah. It was also, like, quite a heartwarming story. Like, sorry to be a spoiler, but basically, overall, she wins in the end. And it's, like, quite uplifting. Okay. So if anybody wants, like, an uplifting crime documentary, then this is the one for you.
I can't wait to watch that. That looks really good. It looks like it was filmed really well,
so good. It's filmed really well. Loads of, like, old footage as well that they've obviously combed through patiently and chosen, like, the best bits. So yeah.
Did I ever send you the short documentary on my cousin who was a boxer in the 80s?
No.
Oh, I'll send it
to
you.
Cracking out info I didn't know about.
No, I love boxing too. I come from a family of boxers. So, like, my dad was one, my grandpa, my great-grandpa, my brother does it now.
It's proper skill. Yeah. Like, it's proper skill. It's like a chess game. You have to know, like, when to hang back, when to go for it, when to dodge. Like,
it's also kind of nuts. It's like, it's a sport where you're getting smacked in the head on purpose.
Not if you're good.
Exactly. You got to be good at it.
You got to duck and weave, baby.
I'll find that short documentary if anyone else wants to watch it too, and I'll share it.
Give it to me, and we'll post it in the Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of our Patreon listeners should expect
we have
something.
Been slacking the fuck off. Yes, and we are sorry, and we love you, and we're sorry.
Yeah, but something is coming for the holidays.
It is. Yeah. How mysterious.
We'll leave it at that.
They're like, this better be good.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. Right. All right, then. I will let you get on with your day, and I will speak to you soon.
Yeah, hope you feel better. All right, bye.
Thanks, mate. All right, bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.